more than just steel and gears. It pulls you in and doesn't let go.
Okay, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Carol Purcell podcast. I am Isaac Simpson. So, today we're going to talk about the Super Bowl ads because that's what everybody has asked me to talk about, being a student of propaganda and have been talking about these topics of commercials for a long time. So, I think everybody is pretty disappointed, you might say, by the quality of the ads. And I have an interesting fact for you. So, and the Wall Street Journal reported a couple of days ago that they used to do surveys of the Super Bowl spots. And in 2014, and as many of you know, I always view 2014 as the banner year where everything changed. The quote is that 23% of Super Bowl spots in 2014 were called risque. Today, that number has remained at 0 for 3 years. So for 3 years, surveyed respondents have said that none of the Super Bowl ads are risque. And there's an article about this in the Wall Street Journal, and it's all people saying, yeah, we're not trying to take any risks. We're not trying to take any risks. Although, one guy from a big agency does acknowledge you're not really going to get anywhere unless you take risks. But these ads that we're seeing are designed to not piss anybody off. And that's because of what happened with Bud Light. It's because of varying factors. And the biggest factor to me is this thing that I've talked about, which is the Borg. So the Borg being the word for the sort of globalist regime who was once behind woke and is behind all of the USAID funds funding transgender surgery in X country. And Vanguard and BlackRock, who gave extra money to clients of theirs or investees of theirs who used to do woke marketing. So that Borg basically is learning how to shift rightward and to wear the skin suit, the right as a skin suit, just as it once wore the left as a skin suit. So it's shifting. And you can see that all over the Super Bowl, from the Super Bowl halftime show with Kendrick Lamar to the commercials. You sort of see this shift happening from woke stuff like the Kendrick Lamar Super Bowl halftime show, in which he sang a song called "They're Not Like Us," obviously talking about white people. Could you imagine if that song was literally about anyone else besides white people? But anyway, and then on the other side of that, you see this sentimental Americanism creeping in, which is something that I've predicted for a long time. It's going to be the next 10 years of culture. It's going to be the Borg learning how to hold up this sort of vaguely right-coded sentimentality in order to survive. Now, where does this idea kind of come from? There's a hypothesis in biology, evolutionary biology, called the Red Queen's hypothesis. What is the Red Queen's hypothesis? Here, I'm going to shift my screen here so you guys can see it a little better. So the Red Queen's hypothesis proposes that species must constantly adapt, evolve, and proliferate in order to survive while pitted against ever-evolving opposing species. So the name comes from Lewis Carroll, and the Red Queen has a quote where she says, in Alice in Wonderland, of course, now here you see it takes all the running you can do to keep in the same place. So what this is trying to say is that the theory of evolution is not enough to explain the advancements of certain species. And in actuality, a species doesn't only compete against its environment, it also competes against other competitors in that environment. Therefore, essentially, if the species doesn't continue evolving against its competitors, it will die, even if the environment doesn't change at all. So generally, when we think of evolution, we think of it's about changing competing in the environment, competing with other members of your own species to survive. If you have the bigger beak and that is conducive to that environment, you survive, that's evolution. This is a secondary sort of type of evolution, which is saying that it's not, if you just stay in one place and even if the environment around you stays exactly the same, it's not enough. Because the competitors in your space will evolve forward, and if you don't evolve alongside of them, you'll die. So this is a very scientific jargon, but it says here in the Wikipedia, however, the probability of extinction is strongly related to adaptive zones because different taxa have different probabilities of extinction. In other words, extinction of a species occurs randomly with respect to age, but non-randomly with respect to ecology. Collectively, these two observations suggest that the effective environment of any homogeneous group of organisms deteriorates at a stochastically constant rate. So, we love this word stochastic. It just means random but not random. It appears random, but in fact, it's actually part of a sort of logic of its own. And what it's saying is basically, with respect to the duration a species has been around, evolution is unpredictable. But it's not random when it comes to the competitors that it's facing in its environment. Because if there's competitors there, if it has a lot of competitors there, if it doesn't evolve, it dies. Here's a nice chart showing what this looks like with a rabbit and a fox. So the rabbit and the fox are evolving next to each other. So a rabbit gains a little more speed, right? Based on an environmental factor. For some reason, evolution causes the rabbit in the environment to get a little faster. But the fox is a competing animal with the rabbit, both because I think foxes eat rabbits and they also maybe eat some of the same things. I'm not really sure. But in any case, they're competing animals, rabbit and fox. So when the rabbit evolves more speed, that fox better also evolve more speed, because if it doesn't, the rabbit's going to take over and there will be no more foxes. Okay, so what does this have to do with culture? What this has to do with culture, in my view, is that we are seeing the Borg, we're seeing the regime, the cathedral, whatever you want to call this thing. We are seeing this change. It's Red Queening. It's Red Queen adapting because the environment that it's in, which is us, which is the people it needs to vote for it, to pay it, to believe it's bullshit, it's realizing that it is behind. And there are other creatures in this environment, Joe Rogan podcast, the independent creator economy, social media, Trump, very much Trump. There are other new creatures in this environment, which is what people refer to as the counter-elite, right? The new rising, new aristocracy that's pushing the old one out, although I'm dubious that that's actually happening. We're seeing that competing force getting a lot more land in the environment. So what has that thing learned to do? That thing has learned to signal certain ways. It signals Americanism, it signals MAGA, it signals based, it signals truth, it signals Christianity in some ways, it signals natalism in some ways, natalism, and we're going to get to that in 1 second. It's signaling these things that the old creature, the old regime, stopped signaling. And the old regime went way off on a ledge, and it started dying, as we saw during Bud Light. So what we're seeing is in a lot of these ads, which I'll show one here in a second, the Pfizer ad, a lot of these ads in Super Bowl are the Red Queen move. It's the regime moving over and suddenly realizing, well, wait a second. Us shilling with Travis Kelce wasn't really working, and us doing all this trans stuff wasn't working. But what is working? Oh, look, the people on the internet are sharing these sentimental ads of people having babies. Let's get into that. Or, let's just stop shilling the vaccine. Let's start shilling other things about Pfizer, your overlord. And then maybe you'll forget. So here was the Pfizer commercial from the Super Bowl. We will watch it together. I'll narrate it for those who are listening at home without watching. But yeah, okay. So here, I'm going to press play.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, we got a kid in a hospital bed, cancer kid. Cancer kid is getting ready to rumble. He's now in a boxing match. And he's
I've been here for years. I'm rocking my pants. Put something severe.
walking in
Making
the
the
hospital. He's like a boxer walking in the hospital. Now he's walking outside. He's being cheered by everybody because he's fighting cancer. He's fighting cancer, so there's a parade for him. There's a female Pfizer scientist looking on adoringly. There's about 16 different camera treatments for some reason, black and white, and okay, hey cancer, it says, we're gonna knock you out, says Pfizer. And then it takes this turn, this random turn from mama gonna knock you out to ultra sentimental. Cancer kid is now hugging his mother and his family. We have more film photographs. Interracial family here, and yes, Pfizer for all, outdo yesterday. I always show clients there's always multiple taglines, so check out, there's actually 2 taglines here, not one. We have outdo yesterday, which is somebody's bright idea, who knows what the hell that means, and then we also have Pfizer for all, which is the website. So look, Pfizer played some branding agency, a lot like mine, to come in and say, okay, everybody hates us. What do we do? And so they were like, well, let's do the easy, low-hanging fruit of, hey, remember? Pfizer's fighting against cancer. Everybody hates cancer, right? This is going to make people like us. So it's like Pfizer is the raccoon. There's a raccoon and there's a competing fox. And the environment is us. It's the people. So Pfizer raccoon is saying to us, hey, just don't forget about the fact that we ripped your face off when you didn't take our vaccine. Forget about the fact that we threatened your life if you didn't pay us to get our vaccine and give us billions and billions and billions of dollars the world over to take our vaccine. And if you didn't do it, we were going to fire you and threaten you with death. Forget all of that. Just remember that we are here to stop cancer. So that's what they're doing here, and so they're evolving. They're red queening. They're finding messaging that they're seeing working elsewhere, and they're filtering in. Does this mean Pfizer has in any way changed its ways? Look, of course, it does work both ways to some degree. Your messaging, it's not just pure. It doesn't have no impact on what's going on inside. Your messaging does matter, and it does influence the actual institution itself. That being said, has Pfizer changed? Has it lost any power? Has it really? I mean, the public is against it in a large sense, but has really anything changed with Pfizer? Like, no, not really. All that's changed is that they're getting better at getting away from woke stuff, getting away from pressure-y vaccine stuff, and getting into this sort of passive, like, hey, remember, Pfizer's just this nice cancer fighting thing, like, don't even worry about it. Okay, so here, that's one. Here's another one. This is another ad that really, the second I saw this ad, I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I've been saying. This is Sentimental Americanism 101. This is for Rocket Mortgage. So, like compound interest home loans, I'm sure. Such nice people. And the ad here is sort of, it's going pure natalism, and it's obviously catching on to this sentimentality thing. It's catching on to the fact that, okay, well, if we're sentimental about people having babies, that's sort of against what we're really about, because we want everybody to abort their kids. But if we're sentimental about it in sort of a superficial way, people will like us more. And I think they're getting that. Remember the controversy recently with Jaguar? Jaguar had their horrible woke gay trans ad that was very justifiably mocked. And then at the same time, everybody started sharing this Volvo ad, and the Volvo ad was like a brand video from years ago that was all like sentimental, safety, take care of your babies, Volvo. And, this is I was skeptical at the time because I'm like, okay, well, does Volvo, or did they really not care about being woke? Like, are they not a globalist brand? Of course they are. They're just learning how to tailor their messaging a little bit to appeal to this different side. Again, representation matters. I'm not saying it's like all for naught that this is happening, and it's way better than woke because woke was so inherently hostile. And if this, helps people to have more kids, great, and be proud of it, then good. So again, it's not all bad, but still, you have to understand what's happening here. You have to understand that you're being very obviously manipulated by a creature, by a globalist regime that is growing and learning, evolving to capture your emotions. So let's watch this ad from Rocket. Oh, by the way, of course, this ad from Rocket Mortgage was listed by the National Catholic Register as like the best ad of the Super Bowl. So, they're obviously tricking the Catholic National Register very effectively. Okay, we got pregnant woman.
Let's get you home.
Talking to her baby. Let's get you home. West Virginia. Everybody loves this song. For some reason, the middle manager white women love this fucking song so much they put it in everything. The West Virginia song. Now, yeah, we have family. They're painting the house. They're hugging. Families hugging. Families hugging. Oh, now we have veterans. So here's the Americanism. Now we have veterans flying home. Of course, everybody's completely multicultural, even though this is about West Virginia. We have people moving. Now the army is singing West Virginia. Oh, there's an armless guy with no arms. That now it's the sports fans. This is what it is to be American. And everyone deserves their shot at the American dream. Own the dream. This is a new campaign. Sobbing man. You have to have a sobbing man. And then rocket.com. Okay, so this is very obvious what's happening here. I said when Twisters came out, and I want to show the trailer for Twisters, or just go, I don't need to show it, just go watch the trailer for Twisters. Twisters was perfect for me because it was like so clear that that's where culture is going. It's this hollow American sentimentality. But buried beneath that, it's the same globalist regime, but they're painting with the American flag. They're kind of coming to the middle. They're evolving. And keep in mind, what is the real function of this beast? The real function of the Borg, of the globalist elite class, what they do best is hollow things out. That's what they do. They're the best at coming in, scraping out the actual interior. The strawberry is white on the inside. They're best at scraping out that interior and painting over on the side with different colors that make you think, oh, this is America. It's the same thing they do with humans. They say there is no man and woman. That doesn't matter. What matters is the painting on the outside. Look, that's painted like a woman, therefore it's a woman, because we say so, because we get to control that. It's also like, speaking of football, one of the most hilarious globalist, just like bizarre, gross things I've ever seen is that for some reason the people who own the Chrysler building in New York have decided that they have to light it up with the colors of the different teams. So in New York City, they put the Eagles colors on like the biggest, most iconic building there. That's just pure globalism because it's absolute no care for the actual roots. It's just the colors. All that matters is the colors. And of course, we own the building. We don't actually care. We have nothing to do with New York City. Imagine if somebody actually cared about New York City who owned the Chrysler building. Would they paint it Eagles colors, their biggest rival? Like, no, of course not. But they don't care. They have nothing to do with New York City. They're just, stateless people. So there's another great anecdote of Sumner Redstone. He was supposedly a great Red Sox fan. And, he was known to be a Red Sox fan. But then he had this really weird thing that he did when the Red Sox would lose to the Yankees. he would switch to being a Yankees fan during the playoffs. So he'd swap everything out from Red Sox to Yankees, and suddenly he would be a Yankees fan. This is exactly what's happening here. They're evolving in order to survive. Okay, so that is I think the best depiction of this. The Rocket ad, take me home, country roads. Everybody deserves a chance at the American dream. Yeah, that's kind of what's happening here. So, all right, let's watch another one that will get us into, I think, a little bit of our other discussion here. This is the last Super Bowl ad we're going to watch because most of them were just pretty forgettable and really not very good. This is the Nike one. So with this Nike one, we have, speaking of this concept about, which we'll get to in a second, about the insidiousness of buying off people who were once in opposition to the Borg in the name of winning, right? So Nike has been on this winning campaign. It's been on this winning tip for I think a year now. So somebody at Wyden Kennedy, who's their great agency, by the way, but they have been trying to I'll show another one in a second, but they had this whole thing about winning, become one of the winners. You're a winner. We don't care what we are. We're winners. So that didn't really work. So they kind of shifted it, and now they have a new campaign concept, and the concept is actually very, very good. The concept is so win, right? So what they're trying to do with this concept, and again, Wyden is known for really having great concepts, and this is a great concept. They're trying to say you can't win, meaning the idiom that says you can never win, whatever you do. When you're a winner, people are going to hate on you no matter what you do. It doesn't matter if you're a dissident right member, but you have a deal with CAA. It doesn't matter if you're supposedly right wing, but really you're taking money from USAID. By the way, this is general. That's not pointed at anybody. As I said in my last episode, I thought the allegations against Rufo were total bullshit. So I'm just saying theoretically. But we won. So it doesn't matter. We won. And you know what? Since no matter what you do, people are going to criticize you, just win. Just win. So it's trying to be a double meaning with you can't win, so win, right? You can't win with these people, so all you can do is just win, right? So let's watch this ad and you'll see what I'm talking about.
You can't be demanding. You can't be relentless.
We have Caitlin,
you can't put yourself
player,
first.
And other black female basketball player. It's
put
all
yourself
female
first.
athletes.
You can't be confident, so be confident. You can't challenge, so challenge. You can't dominate, so dominate. You can't flex, so flex. You can't fill a stadium, so fill that stadium. You can't be emotional, so be emotional. You can't take credit. You can't speak up. You can't be so ambitious. You can't break records. You can't have any fun. You can't make demands. You can't keep score. You can't stand out. Whatever you do, you can't win.
Women giving us skeptical face with eyebrows, lots of eyebrows. Don't tell us what to do, because of course I'm telling them what to do. So you get it. You can't win. Big line. So it's again back in the day when Wyden used to be able to actually make good ads, this would have been a cool concept. Unfortunately, the problem, as I've actually written about extensively with these winning campaigns, is they're doing something. They're doing a sleight of hand that doesn't work for them. They have a logical inconsistency here, and this logical inconsistency is that they're trying to, it's really, really insidious actually, because it's so perfectly accessing the mind of a foot soldier of the globalist Borg, who is one of the women in this thing, who I guess is a athlete of color, female, and it's, they're talking to the white man in the sky who's apparently telling them, oh, you can't do these things, maybe not even the white man, maybe just public perception that they can't do these things because they're a woman of color and, they're a female who's playing sports, so they can't do it. The problem, and actually I should say there's also a very similar and even more reductive and gross NFL ad that has like a group of a woman like out competing a bunch of big white guys named Chad or Brady or something. And it's the most reductive, like white people hating thing you've ever seen. And also a Super Bowl commercial. And both the Nike ad and that NFL ad, which has a woman, as we see in Marvel movies, outplaying men in football, they're bringing us to a world that doesn't exist. They're bringing us to a world in which, women are being victorious over men in the sports arena. Now, that's not exactly what's happening in the Nike ad. The Nike ad is a little different because the problem with it is there's two opposing values there. There's the original Nike value, which went full woke, remember, to remember how woke the Borg actually got. And there's no greater member of the Borg than Nike. But to remember, they were behind the, stand for something if it means sacrificing everything, Kaepernick campaign. And that was supposed to tell us that it was all worth it. You could completely destroy your entire career. Forget about winning, right? That was the opposite thing. Forget about winning. The important thing was standing up for George Floyd. And if you didn't do that, you were not a Nike athlete and you were a disgusting chud. Now they've switched and it's now all about winning. And I think that actually probably a lot of this subtextually was about thinking Kamala was going to win, right? They were going to well, it doesn't matter if we completely destroy America. It doesn't matter if we destroy everything and don't stand for anything. All that matters is that we won because winning is the only thing that matters. So I think they kind of switched, right? They switched their concept, and the concept is exciting because, again, okay, here, I'll show you one other one here. This was the Am I a Bad Person Nike ad that was also about winning. It's called Winning Isn't for Everyone, and it's Willem Dafoe with this kind of very upsetting voiceover. So here's this one.
Am I a bad person?
We're seeing LeBron.
Tell me, am I?
Seeing
I'm
athletes.
single-minded. I'm deceptive. I'm obsessive.
Yeah,
I'm
Spencer.
selfish. Does that make me a bad person? Am I a bad person? Am I? I have no empathy. I don't respect you. I'm never satisfied. I have an obsession with power. I'm irrational. I have zero remorse. I have no sense of compassion. I'm delusional. I'm maniacal. You think I'm a bad person? Tell me. Tell me. Tell me. Tell me. Am I? I think I'm better than everyone else. I want to take what's yours and never give it back. What's mine is mine, and what's yours is mine.
Girls playing tennis. LeBron.
Am I a bad person? Tell me. Am I?
We have wheelchair fencing. There's the wheelchair fencing and wheelchair basketball.
Does that make me a bad person? Tell me.
And then we have legless. Of course, there's this moment at the end of that where a legless wrestler is walking on his hands and looks over to the screen as if to say, "Don't mess with me. I'm a legless wrestler." But the problem with legless wrestler and the problem with this entire campaign is it's built on a shoddy, contradictory footing. Because again, the entire aesthetic of this whole thing is about inclusivity. It's about people, including the wheelchair people. It's about, it's different grades of sports. You have the women's sports and you have the men's sports. But what it's trying to say is no matter what level of sport that you're in, join the winners club, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you were a legless wheelchair fencer or a armless whatever. What matters is that you are a winner. And Nike is for winners. But, okay, so let's all compete on a level playing field. No, wait, no. We don't believe in that. We don't believe in actually competing on a level playing field. Because then that would mean, well, then there is no women's sports. And then there is no arm basketball player. And actually, the foundational substance of the entire thing is about inclusivity, not exclusivity. Winning is exclusive. So they have this inclusive, exclusive tension paradox that is why these ads don't work. Because it's like, all right, well, which is it? I mean, at least the Kaepernick ads, which were pure evil, but at least they were kind of logically consistent. You know, they were sort of about the like necessity of standing up for politics, and that's really the only thing that matters. Whatever, at least it's consistent. It was really destructive, but now see they're getting to this place where they just can't exist anymore, which is winning is everything, and you're part of the winners club, but also you're super inclusive, which means you can't exclude anybody, which means you can't really win. And everybody has to be included. So it's like, okay, well, you know, which is it? Which is it? All right, so that's what the state of Nike. I wrote an article about the actual state of Nike called "Winning Isn't for Everyone," talking about Nike's massive decline, and Nike has completely plummeted and fell from grace. They completely abandoned the running category, largely because they don't care about white people. Nike does not care about white people. They do not care. They just want to be this kind of hip-hop cool thing, ultra-inclusive, which means excluding white people. And so they abandoned running. They abandoned the running category, which was their old bread and butter. Nike was originally a running brand founded by Blue Ribbon Sports, which was an importer of Onitsuka Tiger running shoes because there was no good running shoes made in America. It was just Adidas in Germany, Onitsuka in Japan. So Phil Knight ran an importer, and then he got in a fight with the Onitsuka people, so he had to make his own shoe, which he ultimately did. And we had Nike, which was the American running shoe. And so, but, you know, over time, they got hollowed out. And that is what we're going to talk about now, which is the great hollowing. That is what the Borg does so well. It hollows things out. Nike, perfect example. You know, everything that it once stood for is gone. Now it just stands for this kind of globalist Borg of vague inclusivity, and no more excellence. And actually, the running was the coolest shoes right now available are all in the running category because Nike's basically abandoned it. So there's like, you know, in this piece of mine, I explore a lot of these new startup running brands. There's so many of them, and they're really, really cool. It's Hoka, On, Hilo, Diadora, 361, Mizuno, Ultra, Topo, Rabbit. I love the rabbits. I'm wearing these Hilo ones that are really sick. So anyway, there's a lot of really cool innovation going on in the running brand category because the Borg has come off of it. The Borg has allowed it to grow in its own way. Okay, so how does something like this happen? I just want to transfer over now to why is all of this so not resonant? Why does none of this work? Why does nobody think of any of these ads as risque? Why does nobody care about these? Why don't they move anybody? Why doesn't anything happen? And this is where we really get into the problem facing, you know, our guys. I don't even know what that means anymore, but the right, which is, I tweeted this earlier. The reason everybody's like talking about, you know, why is this NFL ad so like hating of white men? Like, what is going on here? What's the deal with this ridiculous halftime show where Kendrick Lamar is literally, okay, we have Uncle Sam, right? Who's obviously a play on Uncle Sam. It's the same thing. It's like there's this idea that there's this like people somewhere telling these people not to like have confidence in themselves. But anyway, so we have Kendrick Lamar. He's supposed to be a rebel on stage. He's the rebel. He sings a song called "They're Not Like Us." Who's they? They're obviously white people. This is rebellion. But the Borg, the actual regime, they don't care about this. They never have cared about this. They don't actually Kendrick is not a rebel. Why is Kendrick not a rebel? I wrote about this. I wrote the only bad review ever of Kendrick Lamar, which was in 2015, called Nobody Hates Kendrick Lamar in LA Weekly. I had all kinds of people get all pissed at me, and this was it. And, I say in the first sentence of this was in 2015, when Kanye West compares himself to past greats, he gets taken to task for it. When he compared himself to John Lennon at Bonnaroo, he got booed. When he compared himself to God, well, we all remember how that went over. Here's a snarky listicle on Huffington Post titled 18 People Kanye West has compared himself to. That's because Kanye scares people. He pisses people off, as any real rebel must. When Kendrick Lamar compares himself to past greats, Nelson Mandela or Tupac, he gets a pass. And that's true. The Borg loves Kendrick. It always has. Kendrick is the #1 favorite artist of disaffected hype dad guys making $500K a year, and they think they're rebelling. He's the perfect rebel product, and he always has been. And so, he's out here performing, saying, "Oh, it's so rebellious. It's so rebellious." Meanwhile, on there, a guy with a Palestine flag comes out. Here's the guy with the Palestine flag. He comes out and starts waving the Palestine flag. And they real quick get him off the stage. Really quickly, they get that Palestine flag off the stage. And that's the rebel, right? That's the real rebel. The real rebel is the guy waving the Palestine flag. Kendrick Lamar is the product rebel. And look, this dichotomy of buying people has existed forever. The fear is that this Borg does this so well that this is why we have to ask the questions about who is getting AstroTurf money. It used to be we would worry about people getting doxxed. Now we're going to be worried about people's funding getting revealed, because we do need to know. We do need to know which one of these people are legit and which one of these people are taking money from the Borg. Which one of them are being used by the Red Queening Borg to shift our perception? We're the environment. We're the grass. They're trying to, fertilize us. And they fertilize us with our own people. And our own people take the deals. They take the money. They take the influence, whatever it is. And we have a right to ask. Don't let anybody ever tell you that you don't have a right to ask. Well, wait a second. Are you on our side or are you not on our side? Are you actually controlled opposition? And, okay, so I just want to say, I want to kind of tie this up by talking about what actually the weakness here of the Borg is. So, and why don't we just like the Borg? Why don't we like the regime like many of us did in the 90s? In the 90s, we had the amazing Michael Jordan commercials of Nike, I've missed X many shots and that is why I succeed. Everybody loved those ads. Everybody loved them. We loved the regime then. We were like, okay, yeah, you're making great movies. You're making great movies. You're making great art. The cities are great. New York City's cleaned up. I'm going to the movies. I'm seeing the best art I've ever seen. Great music is coming out. We loved the Borg then, or we loved the regime, whatever you want to call it, because it was making good stuff. It was making good stuff, so we didn't care as much that we were, all getting indebted and whatever. But as the Borg rotted, as the regime rotted, so did its ability to create art. And I just want to talk about how that happens. They have all the money in the world, they have all of these things, but they cannot create good art. They can't create impactful art. And the reason they can't create impactful art is not because they're shilling wokeness. That's actually not why. Get Out is a decent movie. It's not great, but there's such thing as art that could, my favorite book of all time, one of my favorite books of all time, Grapes of Wrath. Extremely woke book, at least as far as class goes, right? I mean, it's basically a Marxist book. So, but everybody loves Grapes of Wrath. It's a beautiful thing. People think that there's a bunch of people in a room saying, we got to make this commercial woke. They're thinking that's why these things are so terrible, because of the why. They're thinking that people need to shill this stuff because of the why. And that is true to a degree because, again, as we've just been revealed, and Catgirl Kulak had a great quote about this saying, well, it's not just natural cultural rot. It's not just cultural decline because Now we know that there were hundreds of millions of dollars being funneled into these ridiculous, undermining projects, right? And that's very true. But that's actually not what's really happening with these ads. These ads are not bad because they're political. They're not bad because of the why. They're bad because of the how. These ads are bad because of the environment in which they're created. It's the same thing with movies. Why can't they make good movies anymore? They can't make good movies not because they're being forced to be woke. They can't make good movies because of the environment in which movies are being made. And I've seen this firsthand. To make great art, there has to be a certain crazy, hierarchical, constrained freedom. There has to be a fertile ground to make that good art. And really, we should all care about this because this is the only thing that really matters in life, or at least that human beings can do, which is to create beautiful art or to create beautiful works. This is the point of being alive, and at least in many ways. This is how to connect with God. It's how to create beauty. So, why is it that they can't do it anymore? And that's the thing that I really want to get through to the right on, which is it's not enough to just clean up the woke stuff. All we're going to get then is Rocket Mortgage ad, Twisters 2, lame, hollow sentimentality. That's all we're going to get. It's not going to be like, oh, we're back to making great movies, because that's not the reason. The reason is because the environment that the movies are being made in is broken, and it's hollowed out, it's damaged, it's destroyed. And that's why they can't do this well. They can't figure out how to do this well. And if the right is going to be an ascendant elite, it has to understand it's not the what that you're putting out. It's not that you're now putting out, it's a funny TV show about men can't be women. If you're putting out the same thing with the same people, with the same HRified, corporatized, feminized, everybody needs to get a chance, everybody gets a vote, democratize creativity. That's the thing that needs to change. That's the part that being right-wings means changing that. Or maybe it doesn't even mean being right-wing, but being anti-globalist, being anti-Borg means caring about the fertile environment for creativity. So if you go in there and you're just making right-wing material with the same people in the same, sensitivity coach environment, it's going to be hideous. It's going to be hideous and terrible. So that's why the environments themselves have to be freed from HR corporatism, because that's really what's killing these things. So how does this happen? How does this happen inside these groups? This is what I kind of want to highlight here. So it makes me think of, there's this moment in the movie Free Solo, where the girlfriend of Alex Honnold, who is the free solo climber who does these incredible things because he climbs with no ropes, and it's completely insane, but he's so cool. He's such a cool guy because he's doing this absolutely transcendent, ridiculous thing. And he gets with this really hot girl who becomes his wife, and she spends the rest of the movie trying to tell him to not do this incredible, transcendent, overman, horribly risky thing that he does. So here's a good scene of her trying to tell him to stop doing the very thing that attracted to her to him in the first place.
You never want to feel like you're getting in the way of someone's goal. And it's really hard for me to grasp why he wants this. If Alex and I got married and had kids, I would feel a lot more willing to say what I thought about what was acceptable to us or not.
I could come down on him and say, you shouldn't be doing that, and alienate him. And it would have alienated him because that's his whole life. That's why he feels the most alive. And how can you think about taking that away from somebody?
So what does she mean she doesn't understand why he would do it? The whole reason she loves the guy is because he takes these risks. The whole reason is because he has found this transcendent flow state that so few can find in this world by climbing mountains without ropes. That's why she loves the guy. the people of America loved Hollywood because it was insane. They loved it because the environment was completely fucking insane. And that led to the creation of these amazing works, these transcendent works. You have to believe in the commitment to the transcendence. And everything else beyond it, the environment, oh, we need to be inclusive of this group, and oh, we need to make sure that this doesn't offend women. As soon as you let that into any environment, you're fucked. It's over. And this tension has been going on forever. It's like these people who supposedly love this guy, and they do love him, of course, but his mom gets it. His mom's like, look, this is what he loves. You have to let him do it. But the wife is like, oh, like I would, once we have kids, then I'm going to really tell him. Then I'm going to really tell him, like, how this is going to go. Let me give you another example of, so again, the way that these environments get polluted is not by some person who shows up and says, you need to make woke stuff or I'm pulling your funding. That does happen. But I want to separate that from the much worse thing, which is the corporatization of the creative environment. Let me give you, and the people inside it, the people inside those environments, they've kicked everybody out of it who's a genuine maverick, who's genuinely has the backbone to say no to the Borg trying to force this bullshit. And Kanye is, of course, probably the best example of that. We'll finish with his Super Bowl ad, which is hilarious. So let me just show you an ad that we made with a group of great people in Michigan, and with this great producer director Rhino out of Michigan, And okay, so this ad, I'm just going to play it for you, and you'll hear the voiceover, and I'll just tell you immediately what so many people's reaction to this ad was.
Michigan man. Away on the hills of Michigan, where the pine trees wave and roar, there's a man that knows no master and has plenty of gold in store. A Michigan man, with broad brown face and tawny hand, who lives and loves and laughs and can. God bless the Michigan man. He owns his axe, he owns his soil, and a wife and children 3. And he never has lost his grip on life, as happy as man can be. A Michigan man, who works and rests by nature's plan, with his widespread fields and sturdy clan. God bless the Michigan man. God bless the Michigan man.
Okay, you guys get it. And so it says, God bless the Michigan man a few more times. So what happens? I run an agency. We made this thing. Guess what the feedback immediately was from so many people of this, that they were all like, this is amazing. We absolutely love this. This is, so perfect and beautiful, blah, blah, blah. And then a bunch of them say, but can you make one for women? It says man so many times. Don't you think that there should be a woman one? Because, that's just fair. Like, you got to make one for women. And I just think that is exactly what happens here. That is what happens every single time. That is why these things get hollowed out, because a bunch of people like me, they're in that circumstance, but you don't have people that are disagreeable enough when the board comes knocking to say, no, to say, fuck you, get out of here. No, this is the Michigan Man commercial. This is the right voiceover. We're not going to retrofit a female version of it just because, we need to be inclusive, right? We need to be inclusive to everybody. We need to make sure everybody is the same and everybody's treated exactly the same, and it doesn't matter who you are or anything because you're just an interchangeable cog, right? Because that's what they really want. You have to have people who are crazy enough and have enough of a backbone that they are going to say, no, screw you, get out of here. Now, what the Borg has done so incredibly well, what the regime has done so incredibly well, is get rid of those people. It's any guy in any of these circumstances has been, who refuses to sort of bow, has been cleansed very efficiently. So another great example of this, this guy Holger Fear, a new guy, Incel Kulak, shared was about Pitchfork. So Pitchfork, great example of this, great example of Borg takeover. They're called Pitchfork because the guy who started it was watching Scarface and there was a pitchfork on his arm and they were like, what's that? And he goes, it means assassin. So he started Pitchfork to be a music assassin. They wanted to totally dominate the industry in such a way, or not dominate it, but they wanted to go after people with bad taste. They wanted to be the ultimate tastemakers, and they were. They succeeded. And of course, just like the guy climbing the mountain, they ascended to this transcendent creative place where everybody had their eyes on them. Everybody loved Pitchfork. And what happens? The Borg shows up and knocks at the door. And look, it's in the thread right here. We got Pooja Patel. Starts as a contributor in 2013. And look, this has nothing to do with Pooja Patel being an Indian woman. It has to do with the things that she's saying when she gets there. She says, Pitchfork wasn't intended for me, but at the same time, I wanted to know what they thought about things. And then over the years, she gets more and more power. The people inside don't have the backbone to stand up for her because they have been programmed by the Borg to think, well, we should be equally inclusive to every single person. And it is a benefit if this woman, despite not being a white man and not really being able to compete with us, it's fine that we should put her in there because she's an Indian woman. Oh, she's a woman of color. That is how the Borg destroys you. If you don't have the immune system inside your organization, if you don't have the asshole in there with the backbone to cleanse out the people that are going to destroy your thing in the name of inclusivity, the thing will die. And that's exactly what happened. And sure enough, we got Pooja. She grows up into power and she says, I think that people don't always realize it's simply having someone that's not of the background of the traditional people in the publication doesn't mean it's easy. It means it's harder for me. I'm just a token, but I really have to work to make sure this is an inclusive magazine. And then, of course, what happens? They start reviewing Kendrick. They give Kendrick a 10. The first Kendrick album, Good Kid, Mad City, was pretty good. But, it becomes all about, of course, why does it all become about rap music? And it stops being about incisive criticism of rock because it has to be inclusive of everybody, right? And inclusive of everybody means that you lose the transcendental flow. You have a bunch of people who are just writing about shit because it's inclusive, and you lose it. You lose creativity. Any organization that doesn't have the immune system to stop this from happening, this is Robert Conquest 101, by the way. Anything that doesn't have internal rules to prevent this thing from happening will get eaten by the Borg. And you're seeing that happen on the right everywhere. You're seeing all these people get snapped up, get changed over so that the regime can continue to Red Queen things, hollow out things like Pitchfork, and then lo and behold, suddenly, instead of being transcendentally beautiful and something that you really respect, it just becomes fluff, bullshit, nonsense. It's hollowing. This is what the thing does so well. This is what the Borg does so well. It hollows, it hollows, it hollows. Okay, so let's finish up here with one person who refuses to get hollowed. Not that I am supporting his opinions. Obviously, I'm not. But we have Kanye West. So Kanye, of course, did another ad this year. And his ad this year was... he did the same thing last year, by the way, but this year it was, again, just him talking into the camera. And somebody tweeted, it looks exactly like Joker, like who has somebody hostage. And that's what it is. It is Joker. Kanye is Joker. And what he did is he bought a Super Bowl ad. He didn't buy one of the main Super Bowl ads because he did the same exact thing last year. He bought like one of the local access Super Bowl ads, so not everybody saw it. Only saw it in like a couple places. But he buys it and, he shows his clothing label, which is also, by the way, why I think he was tweeting. I did an article about this. I'm pretty sure that this was all just a publicity act. He's basically using the Borg against itself by saying the things it doesn't want it to say. But anyway, he attracted everybody to this website, and then he took all the products off the website besides a shirt with a swastika on it. Which is like, look, it's Joker-like, right? He's playing with... Kanye is obviously not actually a Nazi, right? He's not actually going to lead anti-Semitic government, but he is toying around with doing the thing you're not supposed to be able to do, right? And this is what you get. The problem is when you don't allow the guys with backbone into the system, they go completely rogue. They go to the very edge, and they use the cloisteredness of the system. They use the inability for the system to accommodate actually crazy people or actually crazy ideas. They allow that really cloistered regime to be kind of overcome by an independent creator, because that independent creator is going to say stuff that, it doesn't really matter. It's just a symbol. Who cares? Well, look, obviously I care. I just mean like he's doing it intentionally because it's this like Voldemort symbol that shall not be looked upon. It's like, this is the ridiculousness of repressing free speech. And he knows, which is something that I've been on for a long time, I've been on this tip for a while, that actually the way to destroy the Borg, the way to really screw it over, is by commerce. Because commerce is the one thing that they can't really control. They haven't been able to figure out how to control commerce. Like, why can't my friend Jacob Urowski has it's not actually racist, but a racist energy drink. Why can't you make that? It sells itself, right? It's its own publicity, because you're doing the very naughty, very, very naughty thing you're not allowed to say. And then, buy the can here. Who's not going to do that? They've created that system. They have created that system by refusing to accommodate actual rebels inside their midst. They've made it so that it's really easy to get publicity, as Kanye just did, by saying like just retarded shit. He was like, I'm going after people in wheelchairs. It's like talk about dead people. Screw this guy who's dead. All the Jewish stuff. He's just saying the things he's not allowed to say. And that's what happens. And this is the problem. You have the whole system is perfectly bifurcated along a red queening regime that is trying to adapt itself to be just American and sentimental enough to like not be hated. And then you have the people that it has kicked out who are just saying crazy stuff because that's the only way they can get algorithmic attention. So what our job in all of this is to be deeply committed to to creating fertile ground for transcendent works. Whether that's technology, whether it's art, whether it's buildings, you have to get rid of this insidious Borg corporatized HR inclusiveness environment inside of these things. That's the only thing that's right wing. Just because Rocket Mortgage has an American flag and people natalism, that doesn't mean that they're natalism. It doesn't mean that anything has changed at all. They're still the same thing that they were before. It just means that they're painting themselves with different colors. So anyway, that's my digest today of the Super Bowl ads. I think that's about it. I guess I should take questions in these things. There are some people who are typing in here, but I don't see anything. So, anyway. All right, guys, thank you so much. I'm doing more of these solo things. Let me know what you think about them. Oh, please paid subscribe, become a paid subscriber on Substack. I just passed 1,000 viewers on YouTube. I never really cared about YouTube, but I just passed 1,000 viewers, so I think I can monetize that later. The question from this guy is SpaceX transcendent? Yeah, I think so. I think look, if Moldbug and Musk stand for anything, it's they're scratching at this idea that I'm talking about here. When Yarvin says, "Oh, wouldn't it be better if California was run by Apple?" He's actually, monarchy is a cure to kind of what I'm talking about. Monarchy is a cure to democratized creativity. And he's saying that we need to not have a bunch of dumb bureaucrats, inclusiveness bureaucrats, Robert Conquest managers coming in and telling people what to do, because they will destroy the ability of creators to make things, which they obviously have done. And that's certainly what Musk stands for. So yeah, I would say that SpaceX is transcendent in a way because he's found a way to build that within this system. And I think that actually the really bright side of the tech people in politics is that they are people who care about the product to a degree. Now, Musk, he's a kind of funny, perfectly ironic case because he hates branding. He kind of hates beauty. He's not like obviously, look at the Cybertruck, right? He's kind of mocking beauty all the time. So he's actually very postmodern in that way. It's another question from Robert Wiesenfeld. Are they trying to sell or self-aggrandize? I don't really understand that question, but I think that what you're talking about is like, what's the Borg's purpose? Not self-aggrandize. The Borg doesn't actually really care about that. I mean, look at somebody like Larry Fink. Look at the people who are actually really high up in this stuff, the USAID people. They prefer to be behind the scenes. So a lot of this woke stuff, you know, it's some of it actually really does come from their actual beliefs. You know, they really are thinking, well, you know, if we can, you know, I had a very viral tweet that was about them giving $500,000 to atheism in Nepal. And why are they doing that? Of course, the deeper reason is destabilization, and they hate religion, and they hate any factor that is something that brings people together outside of the economy, outside of something that can be bought and sold and given a loan for, right? That's what they really hate. So on a deeper level, that's what's actually happening. But on a surface level, probably there's plenty of people inside USAID who's doing that, who's thinking, well, those poor atheists are under attack from the Buddhist fascists. You know, everybody needs a chance. We all have a need to be able to, you know, have a chance to go into debt to Quicken Loans, Rocket Mortgage. We all need a chance for that, right? But what in reality they're saying is we need to access everybody. You know, that's actually what it means. It actually means we need to sell everybody a loan. And when the Buddhists are telling everybody what to do, we can't get in there, can we? So we have to destabilize it. So I actually think the self-aggrandizement parts, again, the wokeness built on top, it's a symptom. It's not really what they believe. It's not really something that they actually care about. It becomes as a function of these destroyed creative environments, and they don't have anything to do, so they just think, well, I'm gonna shill for inclusivity because, you know, I don't actually believe in creative beauty. So I have to shill for some sort of superficial symbol of my ideology. That's what I would say. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. That is it. I will see you later. Let me know what you think of these solo streams. Subscribe on YouTube also, because that's growing. And yeah, become a paid subscriber on Substack. Bye.